The Germans continue to lay mines around the British coasts, and the U-boats are able to escape detection by heavy Sunderland hydroplanes that hunt them by speedily diving. The German submarines intensify their attacks on the Atlantic convoys. U-13, commanded by Heinz Scheringer, sinks the merchantman Bowling. U-41, captained by Gustav Mugler, sinks the Darino. Kurt van Goslar's U-49 torpedoes the Pennsylvania, and Klaus Korth's U-57 sinks the Stanbrook. To these ships flying under the British flag can be added the loss of others under different colors sunk by mines. In the face of this situation, Winston Churchill proposes to the War Cabinet that the Rhine should be mined between Strasbourg and the River Lauter, using RAF planes equipped for such missions. In the Protectorate of Bohemia-Moravia, the number of those detained by the Nazis reaches 50,000. The Czech people are under the heel of the Nazis, who do not hesitate to employ state terror against those they label the enemies of the people. Nevertheless, following further executions, new Czech martyrs continue to emerge in the struggle against the dictatorship of the Third Reich. Heinrich Himmler orders that general profiles should be produced as part of all criminal investigations. Monday, November 20th. U-33, commanded by Hans von Dresky, sinks the British minesweepers Dolphin, Sea Sweeper, and Thomas Hankins, while the Royal Navy submarine Sturgeon sinks the German V-209. Another British minesweeper, Mastiff, is sunk when a magnetic mine it was trying to pick up to study exploded. Hitler receives General Heinz Guderian in his office in the Berlin Chancellery. Guderian, as a representative of the High Command, complains about the criticisms that have been leveled against the generals at a number of conferences. The Nazi leader is convinced the general's views on the Western campaign are very different from his. Hitler signs Directive 8, directed at the commanders of the armed forces. This outlines his ideas on how the attack on Belgium and Holland should be carried out. Where there is no resistance, take the part of peaceful invaders. Otherwise, destroy everything in your path. Tuesday, November 21st. The Royal Navy combat cruiser Belfast, commanded by Captain Scout, is damaged in its keel when an underwater mine laid some days earlier by the German submarine U-21 explodes in the Firth of Forth in Scotland. 21 crew members are wounded. U-33, commanded by von Dresky, sinks the merchant ship Sulby and William Humphreys. Sir Charles Forbes, commander of the Metropolitan Fleet, warns the Admiralty that the entry to the port of Rosyth in Scotland could be mined. The destroyer Gypsy is sunk when it hits a mine off the coast of Harwich. The British government proposes to close the main ports until it finds a solution to the problem of the magnetic mines and orders the Royal Navy to attack all merchant ships heading for Germany. For its part, the Kriegsmarine decides to send the battleships Gneisenau and Scharnhorst to the North Atlantic in support of the submarine war. Following his meeting with General Guderian, Hitler meets with a group of 200 Wehrmacht officers to tell them his opinion about how important Case Yellow, Fall Gelb, is for Germany. Wednesday, November 22nd. An HE-3 Luftwaffe plane drops a number of magnetic mines by parachute over the Thames estuary. One of them, carried by an air current, lands in the salt marshes of Shoeburyness, and British technicians recover it intact. After analyzing it in detail, they discover the secret of its fuses and prepare effective countermeasures. In the sea war, U-43, commanded by Wilhelm Ambrosius, sinks the French cargo ship Arijon. Meanwhile, the number of military commanders sympathetic to the idea of overthrowing Hitler increases. The conspiracy centers on Generals Franz Halder, head of the Army General Staff, and Walter von Braustich, Commander-in-Chief of the Wehrmacht. Every time he meets with the Nazi leader, Halder carries a loaded pistol with him. But though he has repeated on more than one occasion that he will kill him, he does not have the courage to do it. Another general conspiring to kill Hitler is Ludwig Beck, who was dismissed from his post following the invasion of Czechoslovakia. Beck is convinced there is no chance of winning the war, as the United States will soon enter the conflict. Thursday, November 23rd. In the Reich Chancellery in Berlin, Hitler explains the motives for Case Yellow, the attack on Belgium, Holland, and France, to 200 commanders of the armed forces. There is a chance of defeating Britain without having to invade, as the submarines and mines are managing to enforce an effective blockade, and the Luftwaffe can take care of the rest. In his speech, the Nazi leader says it is the first time in her history that Germany has to fight on only one front. It will be the last war against France, as we will smash her. I have led our people to great achievements, and if I have to fall, it will not be with shame. I will stand tall or go down fighting, but I will not live to witness the defeat of my people, he says. Rommel, who is present at the meeting, sees Hitler's tough speaking as necessary to secure the unconditional support of the army's leaders. In Poland, the German governor Hans Frank orders the Jewish residents of Krakow to wear a yellow Star of David on their clothes with the word Jew. He also restricts them to the area where they live. U-33, commanded by Hans von Dreske, sinks the Danish merchant ship Borkum. Friday, November 24th. The German battleship Scharnhorst sinks the British cruiser Rawalpindi between Iceland and the Faroe Islands in the North Atlantic. "270 crew members are killed, and the 27 survivors are rescued by the Kriegsmarine ship. Churchill orders the Royal Navy to plan a strategy for hunting down the Scharnhorst. Meanwhile, there is no let-up in the Luftwaffe's mining the British coasts. In Germany, Hitler orders the confiscation of all properties belonging to the industrialist Fritz Thyssen. This businessman, friend of the Nazi leader, who financed Hitler's rise to power for a number of years, controlled 75% of the state's mineral reserves and employed more than 200,000 workers. In September, he fled to Switzerland, following numerous disagreements with the Führer over his policy of rapprochement with the Soviet Union. In Italy, the foreign minister Galeazzo Giano, Mussolini's son-in-law, publicly complains about the Royal Navy's blockade of goods coming from Germany. Although he presents a formal complaint to the British embassy in Italy, the British government ignores it and continues to stop ships.